Difference between debunking and different opinions. It's important to understand that debunking requires providing conclusive, observable, and empirical evidence that directly disproves a claim. Simply presenting a different interpretation of data or dismissing an argument without engaging with its substance is not debunking. It's just a different opinion. For example, dismissing the fine-tuning argument by calling it an appeal to authority or God of the gaps without addressing the empirical basis for the fine-tuning claim is not debunking. It merely expresses a differing perspective on what the data suggests. Debunking requires conclusive evidence that disproves the fine-tuning hypothesis or proves that naturalistic explanations account for the finely tuned constants of the universe. Logical errors, strawman fallacy. The statement misrepresents intelligent design, ID, by framing it as a purely religious assertion, calling it a God of the gaps argument. ID does not claim that because we cannot explain certain phenomena, we must invoke God. Instead, ID analyzes empirical data, such as specified complexity in biological systems and fine-tuning in the universe, and draws conclusions that intelligence is the best explanation based on the evidence. Dismissing it as a fallacy without engaging the actual scientific claims is a strawman fallacy. False appeal to authority. The claim that citing Fred Hoyle's observations is an appeal to authority is a mischaracterization. Hoyle's point about the fine-tuning of the universe is based on observable data, specifically the narrow ranges within which physical constants operate. Quoting an expert who bases his claim on scientific observations is not a fallacy. Instead of labeling it as an appeal to authority, one should engage with the actual empirical data that supports Hoyle's statement. Appeal to ignorance. Misapplied. The assertion that ID uses an argument from ignorance misunderstands the methodology of ID. ID is not arguing that because we do not know how something happened, it must be God. Rather, ID analyzes observable complexity, such as irreducible systems and specified information, and posits that intelligence is the most plausible explanation. This is not ignorance. It is a testable hypothesis based on known principles of information theory and complexity. Suggesting that this approach is a God of the gaps argument is a misapplication of the fallacy. Historical errors regarding irreducible complexity. The claim that irreducible complexity has been debunked through the bacterial flagellum and the type 3 secretory system is misleading. The type 3 secretory system is not a simpler precursor to the flagellum. It appears to be a degraded version of the flagellum used for a different purpose. This means the evolutionary pathway that supposedly debunks Behe's claim of irreducible complexity is speculative. The empirical evidence to support that the flagellum evolved from a simpler structure is not as conclusive as presented, and therefore, irreducible complexity remains a valid scientific challenge to Darwinian evolution. Intelligent design, ID, and empirical evidence. Intelligent design, ID, offers a testable, evidence-based hypothesis regarding biological and cosmological complexity. Let's explore the empirical data supporting ID's claims. Specified complexity in DNA. DNA contains highly specified information that directs the development of biological organisms. The arrangement of nucleotides in DNA is not random but follows a specific ordered pattern that carries functional information. Information theory suggests that information-rich systems like codes or languages are products of intelligence. ID argues that the complexity found in DNA cannot be explained by undirected natural processes like random mutation or natural selection, as these mechanisms have not demonstrated the ability to generate the precise information required for life. Irreducible complexity. Biological systems, like the bacterial flagellum or the vertebrate eye, are irreducibly complex, meaning that they require all parts to be present and functioning for the system to operate. Evolutionary theory proposes that such systems could have evolved incrementally, but no empirical evidence demonstrates how intermediate stages of these systems could offer any selective advantage. ID posits that these systems were designed to function as complete wholes, as any incomplete version would be non-functional. The argument against irreducible complexity, often based on the Type 3 secretory system, is speculative and does not conclusively prove that the flagellum evolved through a series of gradual mutations. The flagellum's structure remains an example of a system that is most plausibly explained by design, not undirected evolution. Fine-tuning of the universe. The fine-tuning argument is based on empirical data regarding the narrow parameters within which the fundamental constants of the universe operate. Constants like the gravitational constant or the cosmological constant are finely tuned to allow for the existence of life. Even small variations in these constants would make life impossible. This precise calibration points to intentional design, as randomness is highly unlikely to produce such a finely tuned system. Fred Hoyle's observation about a superintellect reflects an interpretation of these data, not an appeal to authority. His comment underscores the remarkable precision observed in nature, which ID interprets as evidence for design. Lack of step-by-step evolutionary pathways. Evolutionary theory often suggests that complex systems evolved incrementally through random mutations and natural selection. However, no direct empirical evidence has been presented to show the gradual evolution of systems like the bacterial flagellum, the vertebrate eye, or DNA. Evolutionary models remain speculative, as they have not provided clear step-by-step pathways that demonstrate how these systems could have arisen through naturalistic processes. ID offers a more plausible explanation by suggesting that these systems were designed as functional wholes. Conclusion. The assertion that intelligent design relies on appeals to authority, arguments from ignorance, or is a God of the gaps argument is a misrepresentation of the actual scientific methodology ID employs. ID analyzes empirical data, such as the specified complexity in DNA and the fine-tuning of physical constants, and posits that intelligence is the best explanation. Dismissing these claims without addressing the empirical evidence is not debunking. It is offering a different opinion. Intelligent design remains a testable hypothesis grounded in observable data, and its claims about complexity in nature should be addressed with evidence, not speculation.